What is your Tinder horror story? This was back when Tinder first came out and wasn't quite as known as a hookup app. We met and had a great first date. Second date was even better. Things kept going for about 2 months when she told me she went out with me originally in an attempt for a dinner with schmucks type thing where her and all her friends would bring the worst Tinder date. We both really liked each other, but I couldn't get over how we started. I've been on quite a few Tinder dates. Most are pretty standard: dinner, drinks, occasional bang, etc. This isn't really a horror story, just the one that sticks out as the most bizarre funny. This girl, we'd been chatting for like a week or so, hit me up around 10 PM on a Sunday night and said she'd be in my neck of the woods on her way home and wanted to see if I wanted to hang out. I did. So she comes over, and she's got a bag of Mexican food with her. So I put on an episode of Always Sunny, and she busts out a monster bean and cheese burrito and a carne asada quesadilla. She asked if I wanted any, but I had already eaten. So this skinny, mind you, girl puts down both of these duck-eyeing things in like 10 minutes. Just destroyed like 2 pounds of food. She wipes her face off, grabs my hand, rubs her tits with my hands, and gets up and goes. Welp, I gotta go. You can tell your friends you at least got something out of it. Never to be seen again. I'm still in love with her. Edit. Here's a screenshot of our last words together. Full stop. I met a guy on Tinder that I had kinda already known through other friends, but we never met each other prior to Tinder. He came over and we hooked up a few times. I was giving him a BJ and he asked me if I'd stick something in his ass. I was totally down for it, so I grabbed the only thing I had, this tiny bullet-shaped vibrator. So I was sticking it in his ass, and he kept telling me deeper, and soon the whole thing, it just kinda got sucked up in. I definitely thought he'd be able to tell it was stuck up in there, and he seemed to like it, so I just rolled with it and continuing doing my thing. So he finishes and I assume he's gonna get up and take that out of his ass, but after about a minute he doesn't, and I was like, hey, so where is that thing? And he's like, I don't know, I thought you had it. And I was like, what the duck, how can you not feel it in your ass? And so he gets up, his face turns red as duck, his eyes are huge, and he runs to the bathroom. He's freaking out. BC, this vibrator is ducking stuck in his asshole. I walk up to the bathroom and he's suddenly white as a ghost and crying and shaking, and he has basically ripped his ass with his hand. It is covered in blood. I do a quick Google search and I tell him to relax or it'll never come out. He asked me to get a fan because he said he felt like he was about to pass out. When I left the room I came back and he had squeezed it out, I guess. It was inside the toilet vibrating and I could hear it. He was passed out on the bathroom floor and a sweaty bloody mess. I think I had him over like one more time, but he got super clingy, so I cut it off. It was super hilarious to tell this story to my friends. Poor guy. However, out of respect I didn't tell the friends of ours that were mutual. TL. Doctor, I got a vibrator stuck in a dude's ass that I met on Tinder. Edit. So I had a lot of people ask when this happened. This was like May of this year, 2015. Also, I doubt any of the posts on Tifu are his, just because knowing the kind of guy he is, I couldn't see him posting on Reddit, or any online forum in general. Edit number 2. The next morning we woke up and didn't talk about it. He actually hung up some curtains for me in the kitchen and hung up some wall art that I hadn't gotten around to doing. So he was a good sport about it and didn't act as mortified as you'd think. Also, he said stick something up my ass, not stick something with a flared base, so I just did what he asked. Edit number 3. Thanks for the gold. One time I messaged a girl, she didn't message me back. Went on a date with a girl who had already told her whole family about me before we even met, and she wanted me to meet them in person on the first date. Nope. I don't use Tinder. However, my roommate loves it, and she's brought back numerous visitors, which is fine, except for the fact that the apartment is tiny and we share a room, and also the fact that my roommate doesn't really care what I end up seeing, and, as it turns out, most guys don't care about having another girl in the room either. Some take it as an opportunity for a threesome. My roommate is my Tinder nightmare. Edit. Thank you for all the advice, but I really don't plan on confronting her, or blackmailing her, or taking things out in passive aggressive ways about this at this point in time. My post may have been a bit dramatic in calling it a Tinder nightmare. Yes, I've seen heard more of her and numerous guys that I ever thought I would. And yes, it was super awkward at first, but I'm pretty much over it now. My Tinder nightmare began on the 8th of January 2014 when I started texting with a beautiful woman who I knew was out of my league. I'm a 50-ish Caucasian guy, out of shape, overweight, but otherwise stable and normal. She was a 30-year-old black woman, college educated, stunningly beautiful and very elegant and slender. Nonetheless, after a few days of texting I invited her to join me for dinner at a very nice restaurant downtown. To my dismay, she actually accepted my invitation. I was waiting for her at the bar and when she walked in my jaw hit the floor. She was so beautiful I literally lost my breath for a moment. She was taller than me in her heels and was wearing a beautiful short dress with the most amazing legs I had ever seen. She greeted me with a bright smile and a gentle hug and we were escorted to our table. We had a very good date. The conversation flowed, and she seemed to have a good time as well. We decided to continue the date and went to a couple of bars for drinks. Finally she said it was time to go home and, since she had taken Uber earlier, I offered to give her a ride home and she quickly agreed. All this time I thought that, even though the date was fun and comfortable, I assumed it would possibly lead to a friendship at best considering the obvious differences. Well, when we got to her place we talked for a few minutes more. I offered to walk her to her door but she declined. She then got out and walked around to my door. She leaned through the window and planted a very brief but sensual kiss on my lips. My heart stopped. She then leaned back and smiled. I was able to stammer out an invitation to go out again and she accepted without hesitation. I was on cloud 9. I knew that this remarkable woman would have a profound effect on my life. It seemed predestined. Fast forward a couple of weeks. She and I had been seeing each other nearly every day and I was developing strong feelings already. But something was wrong. I had a weird nagging sense that she was hiding something. Although she was being very affectionate, something just felt off. Then finally it happened. We were out at a bar together. It was a good time but she seemed distracted. As we were leaving she turned to me and said, in a serious tone, "We need to talk." I thought, this is it. The differences between us are too much for her and I'm about to be friend-zoned. But nothing prepared me for what came next. She asked me to just listen and not say anything. And I agreed. She then started out by saying that she had developed strong feelings for me but there was something that I needed to know about her that might make me want to change my mind about pursuing a relationship. My mind was spinning and so many scenarios raced through my head. Is she married? Is she a criminal? Then I remembered a few days earlier when we were making out and I touched her breast lightly and realized that she had breast implants because it was quite hard. So I thought, OMG, is she a transsexual? But, as it turns out, she wasn't, but that would have been better than what came next. She looked at me, and with a tear in her eye, she told me that she has stage 4 breast cancer. She was originally diagnosed 4 years earlier as stage 3 and had beaten it back into remission after having a double mastectomy along with radiation treatment and chemotherapy. Now it had returned as stage 4 and she was to start chemo again in 2 weeks. I was floored. She then stated that she will understand if I wanted to turn and run and she wouldn't think less of me for it. My response was to reiterate that I adored her, and I thought she was an amazing woman and if she wanted me to take this journey with her that I would be honored to do so. We kissed and just held each other for a while. Finally she said goodnight and went to her car to go home. I cried all the way home. We had a full amazing year together. I had to go to Japan for work and she met me there in between chemo treatments. She never cried and was always elegant. I learned what the true definition of grace meant. We lived a lifetime in 2014. She died 9 months ago, 15 months after we met. I am a much better man for having met her and shared in her struggle. I love you and miss you so much, Jenny. Edit. Wow. Thanks for the gold, kind stranger, as well as the words of support from all of you. Writing this down has been therapeutic and emotional. I just wish I could put into words what a truly remarkable woman she was. I don't have the vocabulary. Edit 2. Redacted. Edit 3. 8x gold. What the hell? Thank you all so much for the comments also. I've been very stoic the last 9 months. Told myself that the ending to our story was inevitable and I was prepared for it, so just look forward and not back. but telling internet strangers this little snippet of our story has caused me to do something that I've avoided for 9 months. Reminisce. Crying is indeed cleansing to the soul. Thank you all. Edit 4. 17x. Thank you all so very much, but please that's enough. In lieu of gold, please make a small donation to your favorite cancer research organization. The overwhelming positive response to my story has really brought my repressed memories of our time together flooding to the surface. Again. Thank you all and happy holidays. Edit 5. Please. For duck's sake. 25x gilded. I'm very grateful, but I'm starting to understand what Trump would feel like if he were paid in Reddit gold, and I don't want to feel like Trump. Please go here and make a small contribution to a reputable cancer charity. Matched with my cousin. I went on a date with a guy, and the entire time he was talking about how men are superior and how there have been scientific studies to show that women have an emotional reaction to the color red when they see it. I wonder why he was single. This is the story of my second day using Tinder and my very first Tinder date. It's Tuesday. I matched up with this girl. I'll call her L. And we chatted back and forth for a bit. She's cute as hell and I suggest meeting up, and I try to find a nice neutral spot near her where we can get together. She invites me to a barbecue with some of her former co-workers. I'm pretty hesitant to this at first, as I don't want to meet someone for the first time at some BBQ. Well, I caved and I ended up meeting her at this BBQ, and in all honesty, it was pretty fun. Elle and I are getting along pretty well. She's trying to feed me shots of rum. I don't have any because I have to work in the morning. And all is pretty damn great. Anyways, BBQ comes to an end and she abruptly says okay, I'll talk to you later, and leaves. Confused, I drive my ass home, and as soon as I get off the freeway she shoots me a text saying you could have come over to my house if you asked. I tell her I still can. She shoots me her address, and I turn my ass around and speed to her house. She doesn't live in the greatest part of town, but I was too certain that I was going to get some, so I didn't really care. I pull up to her house and she meets me out front and greets me as I walk up. As I'm walking up the stairs to her door, she mentions that she takes in stray cats. I'm allergic to cats, but really as long as I don't touch my eyes it's a non-issue. Also, I'm thinking she probably has maybe 4 cats at most. These thoughts are running through my mind as I'm still walking up the steps when she says yay. So I have like 15 cats, and then opens the front door. The front living room was pitch black, but I saw at least a dozen pairs of eyes all turn and look at the now open front door. Then they all scattered like a bunch of cockroaches. Now I haven't broken stride this entire time and continue right through the door. As I crossed the threshold I thought I had walked through a goddamn wall, as the smell that washed over me was horrific and it felt like it had weight. Cat piss. Undeniably it was pure cat piss from 15 and wash stray Methodican cats. There isn't a light on in this house, but I can still see stacks of bins all over the room like it was something out of one of those Hoarder TV shows. From the tops of these rubbish towers sat some of the cats, peering down at me. Elle quickly ushers me to her room, which happens to smell like bleach, as my nostrils have started to burn from a smell other than cat piss. She mentions having just cleaned her room and having scrubbed everything down with bleach, as if that's a normal thing to do when you clean a room. Any sane guy probably would have backed out well before now, and I should have too. But I had come too far and my cock was way too hard to turn back now. We get comfy on her bed and she puts on Netflix. This is before I knew Netflix and chill was a thing, but I knew where things were going. She picks a Saw-esque type movie called Adrenaline, I think, and makes herself comfortable as a little spoon. I make some advances during this ducking horror movie and she's completely unresponsive. So after about 45 minutes of nothing, I tell her I need to get home and go to bed since it's 2 AM and I have work in the morning. During my entire time at her house I tried really damn hard not to touch my face, but I knew since walking in there was no way I was getting out unscathed. I drive home and my eyes are itchy as hell and are starting to water. After getting home, I look in the mirror and my eyes just look like total it, completely bloodshot and itchy. The allergy has never lasted more than a couple hours after starting, so I went to bed and figured I would be fine by the morning. Boy was I wrong. I wake up with my alarm at 4:45 AM, bleary-eyed and feeling like total it as I expected. My eyes are heavy and I can barely open them as I shamble to the bathroom to take a shower. I flip on the light and see, or rather, barely see, a ducking horror show. My right eyelid had swollen out to the point where it was nearly in line with my brow, and was completely swollen shut. My left was not much better. Even worse. It felt like sand had been poured in both of them. I had to call in sick to work and go to the doctor to get a prescription to bring the swelling down when it looked like it wasn't going down after a couple hours. I text her mentioning that apparently I was more allergic to cats than I remembered and I never got a response. Swelling took about 5 days to go down completely. TLDR. Crazy cat lady. Edit. If any of y'all live in UT, shoot me a PM. I dated someone I met from Tinder for a month. Seemed good on paper. Master's student. Yoga teacher. Cultured. etc. Found out she was doing heroin and didn't consider that a big problem. I actually had to explain to her the definition of a high-functioning addict because she felt that having a job and going to school meant the heroin thing wasn't a problem. We broke up and she went back to her junkie XBF. Bullet dodged. Edit. Lol, all the people PMing me trying to confirm if I was simultaneously dating their own itty GF. If you find yourself wondering if I'm describing your GF, you should just break up with her immediately. Met up with a really hot but curious girl. I'm a lesbian. This girl had only ever been with men and wanted to experiment with girls. She was stupidly hot. Like hot. We matched and we chatted for like 2 days. I soon found out we had no common ground at all. Like, none. However, she wanted to meet and me being the horny les gremlin I am agreed just because she was hot and I could take her girl on girl virginity. We agreed to meet one day. Picked her up and we went for drinks. Walked back to mine and chatted a little more over alcoholic root beer and Breaking Bad. We started making out. She took off my bra. I took off hers. She took my pants off. I took hers off. We started kissing, touching, feeling. She starts fingering me. I can tell straight away she is a first timer. She starts jabbing at my poor vag with her half-inch acrylics. I tell her to slow down a little and be a little more gentle about it. All of a sudden, she bursts into tears and says she's not ready. I tell her it's fine blah blah. She ends up staying at my place and we cuddle for the night until I sobered up enough to drive her back home in the morning. Later the next day I go for a piss and realize it stings like a itch and my pee smells dreadful and is cloudy. Run to the doctors because I'm a casual hypochondriac and take a pee sample. Doctor sticks the paper in my pee and yup, straight away it shows I have a UT. I didn't piss after little Miss Precarious scratched my insides out. Itch gave me a UT and blue balls. My buddy isn't the smartest man. He picked a chick up and drove to a motel. They were walking into the room and she says, "Oh wait, I forgot my purse in the car, do you mind if I go grab it?" He says, "Yeah, that's fine," and tosses her the keys. 5 minutes later he walks outside wondering where she is and his car is gone. Edit. For clarification, yes, he got his car back. I think the police found it about a week later. I don't think she was ever caught though. If you're in Baltimore swipping, don't let her near your keys. There was this guy. He was a solid 10 in his pictures. He messages me, asks me if I want to meet up for coffee, so I say yes. He messages me and tells me that I have to pick him up. Okay, whatever. I'll do it. I pick him up. And we decided to go eat instead. He's super funny and cute, so we hang out some more after dinner. Then he pulls out his phone and proceeds to tell me that he has a son and his baby mama took off to Washington, but has no idea what part or anything with him and he hasn't seen him in months. So he then takes out his phone and tells me to go through a folder on his phone of pictures of his son. Like 300 of them. He sat there and made me look through every single one. And he would tell me the backstory to basically every single video and photo in that folder. I felt so bad. But man, I was happy when he left. That whole day just got so weird after that. He did some more stuff, but those are good stories for another time lol. Edit. I promise you people, he was definitely a 10. I showed pictures of him to my friends and all of them said they would date him with the baggage. He texted me like 8 or 9 times every day after that and I never replied. I ended up having to block him on all social media because he wouldn't take the hint. Thinking back now, poor guy. Oh well. Didn't happen to me. but a friend of mine started hooking up with this girl on Tinder about a year and a half ago. She wasn't very attractive, and he would always talk about how much he hated her, but I guess the sex was alright because he kept seeing her. About 2 months into this, he decides he's going to end things with her and find a new duck buddy. Well, he heads over to her house to break up with her and is instead greeted with the girl telling him that she is pregnant and that it is his. First thing I tell him to do is to get a DNA test to make sure that it is in fact his kid. He insists that it is and doesn't get the test. He convinces her to put the baby up for adoption, but she decides pretty late into the pregnancy that she doesn't want to give up the baby and wants to raise it. Fast forward to a month ago, and my friend is stuck raising this kid with this girl he doesn't like. Well, I guess she didn't actually put my buddy down as the father on the baby's birth certificate and had been collecting money from the government for being a single mother or something, and the government wanted her to try and track down the father. That is how my friend found out that he might not actually be the father of the baby he's been raising. Still haven't heard back on whether he is or is not the father, but I hope for his sake that he isn't. Kids, if you're gonna hook up with someone you just met on the internet, wear a ducking condom. Downloaded Tinder for quick and simple hookups. First couple matches were pretty decent. Drinks, sex, etc. The third girl however wanted to take things a little slower. First date, a little making out. Second date, same thing but still won't go home with me. Third date, we had some really awkward sex with the lights on and no music. I was so nervous. I had a hard time keeping it up and she was barely wet. We've been dating for 10 months and she is going to meet my parents this weekend. The horror. Edit. Holy this blew up. Hopefully my girlfriend never downloads Reddit. Edit 2. So apparently people here don't have sex with music on or the lights off, which is totally fine. However, where I'm from or what have you, music during sex is fairly normal and usually the lights are dimmed. At least when it comes to earlier encounters. That's not to say currently. It is pitch black when I have sex all the time. Sometimes the lights are on, sometimes there's no music. Secondly, it's usually some sort of mix of rap and hip hop. Miguel and Frank Ocean are usually an easy go-to. Finally, the reason this is comically horrific is I had no intention of finding someone I truly connected with via Tinder. I was looking for simple and easy hookups. However, I accidentally fell in love and I am so happy she gets to meet my parents this weekend. Also, nowadays the sex is anything but awkward, and we have a very healthy relationship. Someone F matched me M while I was at work. By the time I got home I had 4 messages from her. 1. Are you always wearing a hat? 2. Does it not get really manky? 3. Seriously, do you even have hair? 4. Oh it, you don't have cancer do you? For your information, I don't have cancer and hadn't realized that I was wearing a hat in all my pictures. I started talking to this really sweet guy for about 2 weeks and things were going well. Then I started getting calls from this girl, who he claimed was his crazy roommate that was in love with him and kept trying to get him fired from jobs. Turns out, she wasn't the one lying. She was actually his live-in girlfriend, and they had moved here together from a different state. Apparently he wasn't actually a citizen, and was trying to obtain papers. Thanks, Tinder. Showed up to the restaurant, waited about 30 minutes, ordered myself some food and was about to leave when he texted me, there's a liquor store across the street from the restaurant. Can you pick me up 2 6-packs? I told him I wouldn't. He says he's decided to play frisbee with his dog instead. Deleted app, went to liquor store, picked up wine and went home. He texted me for a month or so after to tell me he's just bought tickets to see me dance. I'm a retired ballerina. Haven't been in anything for a few years. Then he texts me an hour after and tells me how great I was on stage. I never responded. Dating is too confusing. I'm all done. Got a Tinder notification on my phone. Realized I don't have Tinder and was holding my girlfriend's phone. Tinder guy was apparently engaged when we met and while we were dating. Also found out 2 weeks after the fact that he got married. We had still been talking every day. Buddy of mine hit it off with this girl and after a few days, she invited him over to a house party. Sure, he says. What could go wrong? He shows up and is introduced to a few of her friends, all guys. As the night carries on, more and more guys show up and very few girls are actually at the party. After they start talking about how they all know this girl, they find out that she invited them all from Tinder. Every guy was there not to hook up, but to populate this chick's birthday party. Edit, autocorrects from phone. The only Tinder date I went on, the woman told me her goal was to get pregnant in the next few months. I noped right out of there. I met this guy on Tinder and we had a couple really fun dates. I was pretty into him. So on our third date, I decided I wanted to have sex with him. He took me out for a really nice date and then he invited me back to his place for a glass of wine. One thing led to another and we started making out on his couch, fully clothed. But this lasted forever. I was ready to go, if you know what I mean. I didn't want to make out the whole night. So I decided to take matters into my own hands and I took off all of my clothes. Then he sits up, still fully clothed, and looks at me, and says, "I can't have sex with you. I have a STD. Possibly most awkward moment of my life. I tried to be super nice about it, but I promptly got dressed and left. And as many of my friends have pointed out, I am extremely grateful that he told me." Edit. He did tell me which STD. It is incurable. En route to the worst date ever, this guy texted me from the burrito place we were meeting to tell me he'd already ordered me the salad. I repeat, salad at a burrito place. Also, was this the past? Was I now incapable of placing my own food order? Anyways, after arriving sore with my salad ready, beside his plate of tacos, he spent the next half an hour telling me about his model ex-girlfriend and how passionate their breakup sex had been last weekend. The final straw was even after telling him I wasn't a big fan of smoking, he literally asked a stranger for cigarettes and then chain smoked them beside me. A little backstory. A few years ago I was dating this girl and her father really hated me, which was a bit odd as most parents love me, or at least lie about it real well. He was just a huge prick and I always called him on his it. Anyways, her parents got divorced. We broke up a few months later, etc etc. Fast forward to around a year later, me and girl from Tinder were dating for a few months and things were starting to get serious. We're at the point where she wants me to meet her family. Mother, stepfather, little sister. Why not? I have no problems meeting them. Let's do it, I said. She told me how excited her stepdad was to meet me, as it turns out we both happen to be Kansas City Chiefs fans. Well, duck me if it wasn't the same arsehole father of my ex-girlfriend. We talked for a couple of hours, drank some wine, watched a movie and we had sex. Then things went a little downhill. We laid in bed and suddenly it looked like she was about to black out, so I helped her sit right up and asked if I could help her get her some water and stuff. But she didn't speak a word. She just sat there with her hands in her hair for a couple of minutes and then puked all over my sheets. At this point I wanted to get her to the shower ASAP, but she was just stunned or something. I didn't know what to do. After a couple minutes I finally convinced her to get up and brought her to the shower so she could clean herself while I could clean the sheets and all that. Every 5 minutes I checked on her if she was okay, but she would just sit on the floor with the shower running and wouldn't talk. It was all very awkward. After 20 minutes or so I brought her a towel and some clothes and we sat on the edge of my bed and she told me that she was born without a womb. She cried. I calmed her down and we finally went to sleep, without a blanket or sheets. I didn't have spare ones in my student apartment. The next day I made breakfast and she went home. Weirdest date I ever had.